Hello and welcome to episode 28 of the Framework of Tomorrow. I am your host, Keegan Goldfarb, and today I am going to be talking about the history of Mount Rushmore. But before we get into that, as always, I want to talk about my sponsor here on the show, Ashley Luann K. Go check her out on Instagram at the Minnesota Nurse. If you are pursuing a higher education or want insight on life as a nurse, please go and check her out on Instagram. She's also doing a lot of giveaways right now. She's currently doing a big giveaway for $100 if you go and follow everyone who's in the network on Instagram, which is pretty crazy. I am also doing a giveaway on my Instagram for $15 for anywhere you want. I don't have the same budget she has, which is why I'm only doing $15. I'm sorry, guys. But I really do appreciate getting to 500 downloads. I really appreciate that. I'm now way past that now. The last couple days, I think I've gained like 200 more. So I'm up at like 700 now, which is insane. Thank you guys so much for getting that far. Maybe another giveaway. I guess it depends if this continues to grow this much, I might say like 1,500 or 2,000. But maybe if it slows down, then maybe I'll say another giveaway at 1,000, even though we're like almost halfway there already, which is nuts. Thank you guys so much. But go and check me out at the Framework of Tomorrow on Instagram. Same name as the podcast you're listening to on Instagram. To enter, I believe, I can't remember specifically what I said. I think you have to be a follower. That's like the prerequisite for it. You have to comment. You can comment as many people as you want. That counts as one entry or whatever, and then you can give me an idea for an episode, which is actually where this idea came from. I had someone on my Instagram, I believe Elsa Priest, if you're listening, you're the one who gave me this idea, the history of Mount Rushmore, which is really exciting. I actually really enjoyed doing some history on it, and I learned a couple things about it as well. So anyway, if you want to be entered into that giveaway, go on Instagram, type in the Framework of Tomorrow, and boom, you can enter with my recent post. So definitely go check that out if you want to enter. It helps me out, just you following me anyway, so you should go and do that. Thank you so much, and thank you for getting me so far as well. I'm so incredibly gracious. I can't. It's so crazy to me that we're already at 700 downloads. Like, I feel like I just started this podcast. I can't, it's crazy that we're already at episode 28 as well. It's crazy. Thank you guys so much for supporting me, and I really appreciate it. I'm having a good time. I love doing this. This is great. It's so much fun. All right, so let's get into the episode today. So I wanted to talk about the history of Mount Rushmore, especially since there's been a lot of recent backlash. I mean, there's always been backlash on Mount Rushmore, believe it or not. Throughout, even when it was being made, there was backlash on it. There's a lot of nasty history behind it, which is it's kind of depressing. But we do live in America. There's a lot of times where there's bad history, but this specifically, I know there's like a lot of people who are like, oh, everything has like a racist past in it, and I would most of the time I'll be like, okay, well, it's not everything had a racist past, but this, I don't know if it was inherently racist, but it's pretty bad. They kind of, yeah. Anyway, I'll explain it. So if you don't know, Mount Rushmore is in South Dakota. It's in the Black Hills National Forest. It has 4 gigantic sculptures carved into the Mount Rushmore, which is the 4 presidents, George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, Thomas Jefferson, and Theodore Roosevelt. The 60-foot-high faces were shaped from the granite rock face between 1927 and 1941. That was a pretty big chunk of time they were working on this thing, and represent one of the world's largest pieces of sculpture, as well as one of America's most popular tourist attractions. A lot of people, it's crazy to me that I wasn't taught this aspect of it. By the way, I'm getting this from history.com. That is my source for today's episode. If you want to go check that out, I mean, you can look it up, but you can also You can also look in the description for this episode, and it will be right there. So other than it being one of America's most popular tourist attractions, to many Native Americans, Mount Rushmore represents a desecration of lands considered sacred by the Lakota Sioux tribe and the original residents of the Black Hills region, who were displaced by white settlers and gold miners in the late 19th century, which I 100% can get back on this can back that up, because the original white settlers really did kind of come into this land mostly because of greed. The reason they came into this land, they had a treaty with the Sioux tribe, and nothing, like, it was perfectly fine. Nothing was wrong. It was just undisturbed use and occupation. That's what the Sioux tribe agreed with General William T. Sherman, and the U.S. government promised them that, and that is not what they got. What happened was there was a discovery of gold in the region, which soon led to the U.S. prospectors to flood there in masses, just in masses. Sorry, I had to drink a little water. My throat was getting dry. And the U.S. government began forcing the Sioux tribe to relinquish their claims on the Black Hills. So they kind of did steal this area of land, mainly, and I don't think it's because of a racist act. I don't know if I 100% agree with that statement. I don't think it was a racist act, because there's no backing up that they did it because they hated the Sioux tribe, and they were different, at least in this situation. The reason they did it was because of greed, because of the gold. That is why they did this. So in this case, it seems this was very greed motivated. There's the word. Greed motivated, which is really, really unfortunate. Warriors like Sitting Bull and Crazy Horse led a concentrated Sioux resistance, which includes the later famous defeat of General George Armstrong Custer in the Battle of Little Bighorn. Federal troops were eventually crushed in a brutal massacre at the Wounded Knee in 1890. Ever since then, Sioux activists have protested the U.S. confiscation of their ancestral lands and demanded their return. The Black Hills are particularly important to them, as this region is central to many Sioux religious traditions. So in this situation, the Sioux tribe should have gotten their land back. The Black Hills should have became a reservation or something, they should have just got their land back. They should have owned it, but that is not what happened. Very, very sadly. So the birth of Mount Rushmore. So moving on in history, going to 1885, a New York lawyer, Charles E. Rushmore, that's the guy they named Mount Rushmore after. He was a New York lawyer. He went to the Black Hills National Forest in 1885 to inspect some mining claims in the region. When Mount Rushmore asked a local man the name of the nearby mountain, and the local man said he'd never ever heard the name of it before, but from now on it would be known as Rushmore Peak, later known Rushmore Mountain or Mount Rushmore. Seeking to attract tourism to the Black Hills, in the early 1920s, South Dakota state historian Duane Robinson came up with the idea to sculpt the needles, the quote-unquote needles, several giant natural granite pillars, into the shape of historic figures of the West. He suggested Red Cloud, the Sioux chief who signed the Fort Laramie, I'm saying that wrong, treaty, as a potential subject, which would have been really cool. That would have been so cool to see that Sioux chief be carved in the mountain. Instead, they decided to make it about the presidents, which, by the way, to clarify something, I'm not saying Mount Rushmore is bad. I'm saying the history of Mount Rushmore is bad, because there's a pretty major difference. Mount Rushmore didn't didn't do anything, obviously. Mount Rushmore is a beautiful, beautiful thing. I am not discrediting the land at all at its beauty. I'm just kind of discrediting, I guess, how it got there. They really did kind of steal this land and kind of put down. If the sushi chief, that would be so cool if he could have been on the wall. I'm not saying that, I'm not saying that any certain person should have been on there, but if they were going to do something, that would have been kind of cool to kind of honor the Native Americans. So in August 1924, the original sculpture for this project was unavailable. So Robinson then contacted Gutzon Borglum, which was an American sculptor of Danish descent who was then working on carving the image of Confederate General Robert E. Lee into the face of Georgia's Stone Mountain. Robinson had a history of disputes with those who commissioned with the Lee project, and they fired Borglum, who left the sculpture unfinished. During his work at the Stone Mountain, Borglum associated with members of the newly revived Ku Klux Klan, although it's unclear if he actually joined the white supremacist group. So there's no actual proof that that guy was pretty horrible who carved that out. It sounds like he was fired. Yeah, they fired Borglum, who commissioned the Lee. Yeah. Oh, that was for the General Robert E. Lee into the Georgia Stone Mountain. He was fired from that, which doesn't say why. Interesting. Anyway, so Borglum convinced Robinson that the sculpture in South Dakota should depict George Washington and Abraham Lincoln, as it was later give it national and not just local significance. He would later add Thomas Jefferson and Theodore Roosevelt to the list in recognition of their contributions to the birth of democracy and the growth of the United States. So after that, it kind of goes back and forth in different years of them starting to carve this thing and them trying to get funding for it. A lot of local Native Americans, environmentalists, voiced their opposition to this whole project throughout it being created. Calvin Coolidge, the president during in 1925, he traveled to Black Hills for the summer and ended up giving a dedication speech. Oh, I'm sorry, this was in 1927. Calvin Coolidge went to the Black Hills, and the sculptor convinced the president to deliver a official dedication speech at Mount Rushmore. That carving began in October. Over the years, they were actually given a lot of federal funds for the Rushmore project, which really surprises me. I'm surprised that they got federal money for this, which is, I don't know, kind of crazy. Robinson, to his immense disappointment, was excluded from this. To carve the 4 presidential heads into the face of Mount Rushmore, Borglum united new methods, including dynamite and hammers to blast through a large amount of rock quickly. There was 400 workers removed 450,000 tons of rock from Mount Rushmore, which still remains a heap near the base of the mountain. It was dangerous work, but there were actually no lives lost during the completion of the carved heads. So then over the years, there were some presidents that came as like President Roosevelt. He attended this as well. And Franklin Roosevelt he attended the ceremony when his 5th cousin Theodore Roosevelt was dedicated in 1939. I believe he was the last one to go up there. In 1991, Mount Rushmore celebrated its 50th anniversary after undergoing a $40 million restoration project. The National Park Service, which remains Mount Rushmore, recorded upwards of 2 million visitors every year. Meanwhile, many Sioux activists have called for the monument to be taken down, even as they continue to protest what they view as illegal U.S. possession of their ancestral lands. So, after learning about the history of Mount Rushmore, I kind of got a new look for Mount Rushmore. But one thing when I think about what we should do for the future when it involves Mount Rushmore and what the Native Americans kind of want and what's going on, should Mount Rushmore be taken down, which is what they want to do. And here's my thing with this situation. Yes, they should. I don't want to say it's too late for them to get their land back, because it's never too late for anything. But there's always, and here's the thing with a lot of people wanting statues to be taken down as well. It comes to the fact where statues, I heard this the other day. Statues, oh, I keep saying statues. Statues provide a kind of an example. They hold an example because you see this person, and most of the time they're being remembered for what they did and not for who they were, because a lot of famous people in history, even really, really good ones like Martin Luther King, there was a lot of allegations against him later and I think there was a lot of like proof that he ended up being very mean to women and kind of just not cool in that aspect of it. But that's not what we remember Martin Luther King. That's not why we remember him. We remember him for what he did for the Civil Rights Act. So I guess it kind of comes this is a little different, but a little different because it's like carved into a mountain. But with statues, it provides an example of what history should not be repeated. If we do not learn from history, we're just going to do it again. And that's really what I think is a good reason why it shouldn't be taken down. And it is kind of an American, I know it's horrible to say because I don't know. People always, in history, it wasn't just the Americans who were stealing land. I'm not justifying the fact that they were stealing land, but even the Native American tribes were stealing land from each other. And yeah, I know some people are going to disagree with me on that, and that's okay. That's your opinion. And this is my opinion as well. So, and we can still be buddies. We can still be friends. And that's how life is. But yeah, like I said, I don't want to say it's a mute issue because it's not. But also, like, how are we going to give their land back? You know what I mean? I don't know. It's a lot more complex than I think a lot of people make it out to be. And like I said, I am not saying it's okay that we stole land from the Native Americans to build this. And especially since the original sculptor was not also a pretty cool person either. But I think there's a lot to be learned about this. And I hope next time you go and visit Mount Rushmore, you have this mentality of, wow, there's a lot of history we can learn behind this. And we can look at this statue, or not the statue, but this monument and think and remember that we shouldn't do it again. It kind of acts as an example in that way. And I think that's something that American people need to be a little bit more educated on, because I didn't know this, and I don't know any of my friends who were told about this either in school. And I think it's important to talk about. I think it's important to talk about that it's not just, oh, it's an American monument. It really encapsulates the heart of America, and not give the kind of lesson behind it and where it came from. Anyway, yes, so that was the history of Mount Rushmore. So the random history fact of the day that we have is, I kind of covered this in my conspiracy episode on, what did I call that episode? Something conspiracies. Oh, American conspiracies. That's what it was. You can go check that out. I did cover this on that as well. There is a secret room behind Mount Rushmore, behind Lincoln's head. There was the treasury room. No. That's what they think is in there. They think there's like a lot of treasure, mostly because of National Treasure, the movie. I think it was the second movie. They went into Lincoln's head, and there was like a lot of treasure in there. And there's no way to prove that there is. Apparently, allegedly, it's just an empty room, but it was originally going to contain like the Declaration of Independence and stuff like that, but it doesn't. That we know of, I guess. It is locked, and there's no way to really get up there. But there is a secret room behind Mount Rushmore, which is really cool. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. You should definitely go and check me out on Instagram, like I said, for that giveaway this week. And go rate me 5 stars on iTunes, or rate me anything on iTunes. It helps either way. And yeah, thank you so much for listening, and please make sure to check out Wednesday for another amazing, fantastic episode of The Framework of Tomorrow.